Hello there everybody, my name is Dopefish and today we'll be going through the closed alpha test of a new Vampire Masquerade game. Bloodhunt is a third-person battle royale game that has 45 players in each match.
Whoa, but Dope, didn't you just say this was meant to be a Vampire Masquerade game? How does a battle royale fit into all of this, especially when the market is already flooded with them?
Good question, skeptical viewer. I had the same concerns, which is the reason why I'm making this video in an attempt to explain what set this game apart from the others. The game takes place in Prague, sometime after the events of the Second Convention of Prague, which were meant to reconcile the Camarilla and the Anarchs. The Camarilla are the traditionalists who wants to control vampire society through strict rules. The Anarchs, on the other hand, rejects their status quo and do no longer wish to be ruled by the elder vampires. Unfortunately, they didn't manage to settle their differences, and instead an all-out war broke out between them. This of course attracted the attention of the Second Inquisition, who put the town in lockdown in an attempt to eradicate the vampires. You take the side of the Camarilla in this conflict, and everyone you're going up against are considered being part of the Anarchs. People wouldn't have really minded this being a BR as much, if only Bloodlines 2 would have come out first as originally planned.
But I've waited so long to see it again.
One of the things that really sets Bloodhunt apart from its competitors is its traversal system and the many ways it allows you to move through Prague. Of course you got the normal sprinting and jumping as you do in other games, but by being a supernatural creature it also allows you to freely scale any kind of wall in the game. And the enhanced agility allows for sliding unhindered mid-combat, letting you freely aim all around you while doing so, making it reminiscent of the diving ability in Max Payne. Then we have the wall jumping ability that reminds me of something like Titanfall or Gun Z the Duel. Oh yeah, another thing about sliding is that it gives you a minor speed boost while doing so jumping immediately after lets you reach further, and you can perform it on downward slopes for greater effect. By being airborne near vertical surfaces you initiate a wall slide. Then, by using the moves you just learned, you can chain them together to maintain your velocity or gain even more speed. Although, all of this is just scratching the surface of the movement system. When you start throwing in the vampiric abilities into the mix, you can combine those with some creative use to enhance your moves further. So now with the movement basics out of the way, let's introduce the game.
This is a fight for survival. If you want to survive the night, you must arm yourself. Stay ahead of the deadly red gas closing in around you. Engage the entity at your own risk. Feed on resonant blood to grow your power. But avoid breaking the masquerade, lest a blood hunt be called on you. You will need every advantage. All your skill and cunning, and a bit of luck to earn victory.
When joining a match, the first thing you're greeted by is the spawn selection screen, where you can freely select your spawn location. If it's unavailable, you'll be randomly assigned a spawn location next to it. The pulses coming out from your chosen location shows where nearby enemies will be spawning, so you can plan your approach for the match. And once the spawns get locked in, it will reveal the spawning location of all the other players on the map. So you can see the enemies mainly spawning east of my location. And once spawn selection is done, you will be selecting one of the available archetypes, which are the classes of this game. When the match begins, you spawn in immediately at your chosen location instead of dropping out of an airplane or a magical school bus, and can commence looting the nearby area. Police van houses armor and ammunition, while world loot contains a random assortment of goodies. Equipping the armor we just picked up takes about 5 seconds and will provide you with additional 50 health points. And if you find yourself in need of healing, Amber Lamps is a good nutritious source for blood. Using a blood bag takes 5 seconds and will heal you 100 health points instantaneously. And if that isn't enough, you can find blood syringes. That only takes a second to use, but heals you 50 health points over a duration of 20 seconds at a rate of 2.5 health points per second. And in the back of delivery vans you'll find 2 different weapons to choose from. Throughout Prague you will also be able to find an assortment of stores, where the pharmacy is a good place to find healing items. Being the first to enter a store will trigger its alarm, alerting nearby players of your location. If you're looking for a specific ranged weapon, the tailor store is usually the way to go, as it contains the assortment of weapons and armor. Alternatively, if you're looking to fulfill your Highlander aspirations, you can find a different assortments of melee weapons at the Antiquary. Epic tier melee weapons comes with their own special ability, such as the Scourge Blade's Scourge Dash, which does a dash attack by right-clicking with a cooldown of 5 seconds. You can also do it mid-air, which is another way to chain moves, and the second epic tier melee weapon in the alpha was the Katana, which had the Reflect ability, which lets you deflect bullets and send them back to your opponent. You do this for a short duration while holding right click and aiming where you want the bullets to go, allowing you to headshot opponents with your own bullets. To get your hands on higher tier weapons, you need to find the Camarilla caches located at different landmarks of the map. They have a chance of containing legendary weapons such as the Silence SMG or the legendary AK. Another way to acquire higher tier weaponry is by defeating the entity, the Second Inquisition soldiers that are posted throughout the town of Prague, enforcing the lockdown and hunting down vampires. At each of these entity locations is an entity strongbox, which can contain the legendary weapons, as well as the only way to acquire the elusive minigun. But be forewarned, the entity doesn't just stand around, and they're specially trained to take out vampires. Oh boy! Oh boy, for fuck's sake! I get killed by the NPCs! No! Getting downed is not the final death though, as it only brings you into torpor, and if they don't finish you off within 20 seconds, you'll be rejuvenated enough to get back on your feet. Did you think it was me? Really? Heightened Senses is part of Vampire's Auspex ability, which lets you see locations of world loot and civilians. While it doesn't let you see enemy players through the walls, it shows the sound waves of nearby shootings, which helps in locating them. Another part of it that helps you locate the enemy players is that they get highlighted in red, which helps you see them from a distance. Other than enemy players, the biggest threat to you is the red gas that's being deployed by the entity. It's harmless to normal humans, but it acts the same for vampires as if they would have been exposed to the sun. Being in gaseous form lets it take some interesting shapes as it closes in throughout the match. It doesn't really hurt that much in the beginning, but it grows in potency as the match goes on. There is an item called the Red Gas Neutralizer that you can use to gain temporary immunity to the effects of the gas. But if you find yourself without one and get stuck in the gas for a while, the best way to get back to full health is by snacking on the blood of a civilian. Some of them even contains resonant blood that gives you additional perks, such as Sanguine that gives you passive healing. Its effect increases in potency the more of the same type you snack on. They reflect the temper of the human, another one being the Choleric. This one increases your melee damage with 10, 25 and then finally 50%. There's 4 variants in total, another one being the Melancholic, which reduces the cooldown of your vampiric clan skill with 10, 25 and then finally 50%. The final one is Phlegmatic, which reduces the cooldown of your archetype skill, which is your class-specific skill. But be careful around the civilians, so you don't end up breaking the masquerade. If they see you feed on somebody, or even if you just shoot them by mistake, you end up violating the masquerade and get a blood hunt called on you for a minute. This reveals your position to all other players and even shows up through the walls. But in regards of blood resonance, you only start with 3 slots. You can expand it to a maximum of 7 by drinking the blood of the entity or another vampire. This is also known as Diablerizing and will provide additional XP in the future. There's currently 3 clans with 2 archetypes each. First one being Saboteur for the Nosferatu, with the clan skill Vanish, that makes them become invisible and move rapidly for a brief duration. While others can't see you, you can still take damage while vanished. Each clan skill focuses on movement and can be used to either engage or disengage from combat. Then we have the passive skill Unseen Passage, which turns you semi-invisible while crouching, makes you a lot harder to spot for enemies. While you can do this indefinitely, performing an action will break your camouflage. The archetype skill for Saboteur is Sewer Bomb, which throws a bomb that explodes and releases toxic gas when approached by enemies. So you can see it creates its little proximity radius, and when they enter it, it explodes, releasing gas that causes damage over time. So while the Nosferatu share the same clan skill, each archetype still has a unique passive and archetype skill. And the other archetype is Prowler, who is a relentless hunter. By mastering the creatures of nature as well as the beast within, the Prowler gains unparalleled abilities to track and reveal enemies. And as mentioned, it shares the Vanish skill with the Saboteur, while gaining the unique passive skill Sense the Beast. Severely wounded enemies leaves a trail that reveals their recent movement. This was probably the best skill in the alpha, as you don't need to hurt the enemies yourself to see their trail, making it easy to hunt and track enemies as well as knowing their general health status. The archetype skill for Prowler is Scouting Famulus, which sends out bats to scout an area, temporarily revealing enemies through walls. So any enemy who enters within its radius becomes marked for you for a duration of time, making them visible through walls. It was generally easy to avoid the bats, and was very obvious when you get revealed for enemy players. So if we move over to the Bruja clan, we have the Brute archetype, which is a frontline defender. The Brute comes to the defense of allies while keeping enemies at bay. And Bruja's clan skill is Soaring Leap, which performs a powerful jump forward. It's a pretty decent movement skill that lets you cross gaps between buildings and can more easily get above your enemies. The passive skill True Grit allows the Brute to replenish up to half of their health while not taking damage. I'd say that this was one of the weaker abilities, since you needed to avoid taking damage for about 3 seconds, and it only replenishes up to 100 health points, leaving you still vulnerable without providing any real mid-combat benefits. Though it will save you from having to use as many healing consumables as the other archetypes. For its archetype skill, it has Shockwave Punch, which unleashes a shockwave capable of deflecting bullets. So this is pretty much a shield wall that you can still shoot through and will knock back enemies as it hits them. Moving over to the Vandal, who's a reckless brawler. Immense strength is channeled through the fist of the Vandal, making them bring the combat up close and personal with enhanced durability and crushing force. And as with the Brute, it has the Soaring Leap clan skill. Its passive skill Adrenaline Rush gains moderate damage resistance when in close vicinity of enemies. You can see it activate in the lower middle, but I had a hard time estimating just how much resistance it provided. And then there's the archetype skill Earthshock, which leaps forward and crashes upon the ground, dealing damage and hurling enemies upward. It does about 20 damage, knocks them back and stuns them for about half a second. You could use this skill to knock enemies out of cover, or combine it with your other movement skills such as the Soaring Leap. Then we have the Toreador, Siren, Stunning Beauty. Sirens are always looking for the next opportunity to leave enemies blinded by the mere sight of their beauty. And they have a really cool clan skill called Projection/Dash. Send out a projection of yourself, which you can then dash to. So this pretty much means that you can send the projection to a location and then teleport to that location at will. The projection is visible to your enemies, which means you can use it to distract them with it, but if they haven't seen it, they won't know where you're teleporting to. The projection also has a secondary functionality that we will be bringing up in a little bit. For the passive skill, we have the Kindred Charm. Nearby civilians are charmed, temporarily making them act friendly towards you and your team. During solo play, I saw absolutely no use for this skill, since you had to get very close to the civilians for it to trigger, and they were seldom stationed this closely to each other for it to matter. And finally, the archetype skill Blinding Beauty. Slowly erupt into pure beauty, blinding and damaging all nearby enemies. This sounds pretty cool, but it was pretty useless, as it has very limited range, does about 18 damage and doesn't really blind the enemies, just cracks their view. The combination of these skills just makes the Siren an underwhelming choice. The only good skill was Projection/Dash, but since it's a clan skill, it's also shared with the other archetype of Toreador. But since this is only an alpha, I'm actually expecting the developers to buff these characters before their release, to make it a little bit more viable. But for now, Muse is clearly better choice for Toreador. It has a rejuvenating presence, Whenever allies falter, the muse runs to their rescue and inspires them back into the fray with their enchanting song. And as we pointed out, it also has the projection/dash ability. The passive skill for Muse is called Final Act. Instantly refresh your cooldowns and enable the use of powers when downed. So in essence, this means that whenever you go down, all your cooldowns are reset and you're able to use projection/dash abilities to get away from danger, as well as their archetype skill, Rejuvenating Voice. So, about Rejuvenating Voice, it allows you to enter a restorative state that heals you and nearby allies while channeled. Taking damage or using the power while channeling interrupts the healing state. If you remember from earlier, I mentioned that projection/dash had a secondary functionality. So the flavor text says nearby allies, which includes allies that are nearby your projection, so you can combine the two to heal allies from afar, and the heal itself is an immediate 40 health point, and the health increases while you channel. Let's enter the Elysium. This is the hub area where players spend their time while waiting to be placed into matches. Throughout the Elysium you will be able to interact with different NPCs. Such Custos, the Keeper of Elysium, also known as its caretaker, who assures that the customs of the Elysiums are followed, and may schedule or cancel any events. He'll also be providing you with quests to fetch items from the town and bring them back to the Elysium for him. As you walk through Elysium, you'll also be encountering other players waiting for their games to begin, or who is just hanging around to socialize. The place is also brimming with different weapons and artifacts that you can inspect to get a closer look at. Another NPC is Maya, Toreador's Primogen, which means she's the representative of their clan. She's also the Harpy of Prague, the influencer of court, pulling the strings of politics. She's the most likely one to have the latest news and be up to date with what's going on in the city. And then we have Kirill, the Brujah's Primogen, who is the sheriff of this domain. He assures the edicts of the prince and manages the blood hunt against the anarchs in the city. While the prince is gone, I assume he's the highest authority in the Elysium. If we go back to Custos, he can give us a quest to retrieve an item from Old Town. By accepting this, you will be tasked with finding a statuette that's hidden somewhere in the town. By retrieving these items, you will increase your standings with these characters and also unlock additional lore information in your journal. This lore comes in many shapes and forms, and pretty much anything in the game has a story about it that you can read about in the journal. I believe a lot of this lore will be referencing other stories in the Vampire Masquerade universe. As an example, even if the dates are wrong, this video cassette tapes really makes me think about the one you fetched in Vampire Masquerade Bloodlines. According to the text, this tape is supposed to be a snuff mockumentary from 1996, never uploaded. Some say it cannot be digitized. The label on the side says "The Night in Question." When you watch the tape, it is clear that it's been almost entirely erased, but there's a visual noise right at the end. A shape hurls across the screen. The sound peaks into a scream of static, or maybe just a scream. Now we'll be moving on to the most important part of the game, the character customization. Each clan has its own distinctive look, but you will be able to tweak things such as the body type, switch between different looks for your face, and then tweaking your skin tones. There will be a vast variety of hairstyles to choose between, and then pick the hair color of your choice. Choosing different eyes. Picking your eyebrow shape. This particular one has a little cut on the left side. And you'll be able to tweak the eyebrow color individually. You'll also be able to pick between different types of makeups. As if that wasn't enough, you'll have an assortment of tattoos to choose from. And then there's the facial hair, where you can pick from having a full beard or a scrawny pretend to have facial hair. You'll also be able to color the beard individually from your eyebrows and hair colors. For the clothing, you'll be selecting from different predefined outfits. Each item comes at different rarities depending on how elaborate it is. For accessories, you'll have 2 different categories to pick from, with the first one being piercings. And the other category is for different types of glasses. Remember to wear your shades at night. And finally, you'll be able to unlock emote, which I assume is gonna be a lot of dances. Now, when we've finally gone through everything, let's take a look at some gameplay. Hear him, I think. Incoming. Thank you. And that's the way we do it. Knocked. That's pretty good. Got him, buddy. Surprise, motherfucker. You calm down. Yeah, here we go. Oh! Oh, fuck! And the katana can deflect bullets. What? So that's good. other guy though. Oh, he's been sneaking this whole time. That's why we haven't seen him. Wait. Oh. Another one bites dust. Whoa, fuck. Sorry, buddy. There he was. Kind of them go into cover for me. Is that him? There we go. He tried to flee, but I got him. Guy jumping around this side. Fuck you. Oh, we were shooting these guys. See them plays, man. And you're falling down, so it becomes easier to eat. Oh, there we go. That's a good one. Sorry, buddies. Can only be one. What the fuck? Oh yeah, shockwave. Oh. There we go. Okay, so I actually outplayed him this time. Oh, what the fuck? There we go. That was a good duel, man. Woo! Easy claps, man. Gonna get him. Oh, look at that! I got 10 kills! One of the features that were missing from the closed alpha were the artifacts. These legendary items provided benefits while equipped, such as with the 7 League boots, which gave the player the ability to double jump. You may only have one equipped at a time, and it's currently unknown what other artifacts there may be. Next up we have the progression system. The alpha barely scratched the surface of this, but we could see the framework for the quest system, where the players needed to fetch a statuette from an antiquary, painting from the art gallery, and finally some electronic components next to a shop. Finding these items unlocked additional lore, while also assumingly increasing your standings with the quest givers. There's been mentioning of experience points that you gain from playing matches and completing challenges. We don't know what these challenges are yet, but I guess it would be something like get 5 kills with a melee weapon. The developers have also confirmed the existence of a battle pass, which will let you unlock cosmetic items as you play the game. They also mentioned that they won't be monetizing anything other than vanity items, so you won't have to worry about it becoming pay to win. Speaking about vanity items, anyone who participated in the alpha will be rewarded with a unique player icon and a player banner. The next clan to be added is going to be Ventrue. It will have 2 archetypes to choose from, with 1 shared clan ability focused on movement.
When did life become so cheap? Have we always been so fragile? I am eternal. You are not. But rest assured, the end I gift you is a greater mercy than having to exist for yet another damn night.
I suspect a new clan gets introduced each season, which probably means every 4 months. There's a few likely contenders to be the next ones. Gangrel with their animalistic shapeshifting, providing unique gameplay opportunities. Malkavians who hear voices of insight or madness, and is mentioned in the in-game lore. And the Tremere, warlocks that practices blood magic, who also gets mentioned in-game. It's likely that each clan will have their own Primogen in the Elysium, which expands with new areas for each season. In regards of esport, the developers doesn't have any initial plans for it, but would support it if there's players' demand for it. I'm personally hoping they'll be adding ranked matches and leaderboards to the game, but it all depends on how the game fares after launch. For the launch itself, the game is currently only announced to be released on Steam. While console release have been heavily requested, it's unlikely to happen within the first year of the game, and would then only be available for the latest generation of consoles. And finally, for the release date itself. It's tentatively scheduled to come out this year. There's no more precise date than that, but the developer said there would be a while after alpha before we'd get another chance to try the game again. They themselves went on vacation after the alpha test and will have to process all the data, feedback and bug reports once they get back. Not to mention implementing all the features and content that were missing from the alpha. I believe they'd like to avoid releasing at the same time as Battlefield 2042 in October, which would be one of the reasons it's undetermined if there would be an open beta for the game at all. But if there is, it would arrive in time for Halloween and be ongoing throughout November, with a likely game release for early December. But hey, that's just a theory. There's a shark down in the water! There's a shark down there!